Marcus Richardson had everything money could buy, but happiness wasn't one of them. At 38, he owned a technology empire worth $12 billion, lived in a mansion that could house 50 families, and drove cars that cost more than most people's homes. Yet on this foggy October morning, he found himself driving alone through the dense forests of Oregon, trying to escape the suffocating weight of his privileged but empty existence. The divorce papers had been finalized 3 months ago. Sarah had taken half his liquid assets, but she couldn't take his companies or his real estate empire. Still, losing her felt like losing the only genuine connection he'd ever had. She'd left him for someone who actually had time for her, someone who wasn't constantly buried in board meetings and merger negotiations. The irony wasn't lost on him that he could buy anything except the one thing he truly wanted: authentic human connection. Marcus pulled his black Range Rover off the main highway onto a narrow dirt road. He discovered this area during a business trip 2 years ago and had purchased 3,000 acres of pristine forest land. It was supposed to be an investment, but it had become his sanctuary. When the pressure of running Richardson Technologies became unbearable, he would drive out here and walk among the towering Douglas firs and ancient cedars. The morning mist clung to the forest floor like ghostly fingers. Marcus parked near an old logging trail and stepped out into the crisp air. He wore expensive hiking boots, designer jeans, and a cashmere sweater that cost more than many people made in a month. But out here, those things felt meaningless. The forest didn't care about his net worth or his business achievements. He began walking deeper into the woods, following a path he'd traveled dozens of times before. The rhythmic crunch of fallen leaves under his feet and the distant call of a hawk overhead usually calmed his racing mind. Today felt different, though. There was an unusual stillness in the air, broken only by the occasional snap of a twig or rustle of wind through the branches. About 2 miles from his car, Marcus heard something that made him freeze. It was faint at first, almost lost in the natural sounds of the forest. But as he stood perfectly still and listened, he realized it was human. Someone was crying. The sound was coming from somewhere off the main trail, deeper in the woods where few people ever ventured. Marcus hesitated. His rational mind told him to call the authorities and leave. He wasn't equipped for whatever situation might be waiting in those trees. But something about the sound touched a part of him that had been dormant for months. It was raw, desperate, and utterly heartbreaking. Following the sound, Marcus pushed through thick underbrush and around massive tree trunks. Thorns caught at his expensive clothes and mud stained his boots, but he pressed forward. The crying grew louder, more distinct. It was definitely a woman, and she sounded terrified. After 10 minutes of difficult hiking through dense vegetation, Marcus emerged into a small clearing he'd never seen before. What he found there would haunt him for the rest of his life. A young black woman sat against the base of an enormous cedar tree, wearing what had once been a beautiful wedding dress. The white satin was now dirty and torn, stained with mud and what looked like blood. Her dark hair, which had probably been styled in elegant curls for whatever wedding she'd been attending, now hung in tangled strands around her face. But it was the chains that made Marcus's blood run cold. Heavy metal shackles encircled both her wrists, connected to a thick chain that wrapped around the tree trunk. The metal had rubbed her skin raw, leaving angry red marks that spoke of hours or perhaps days of struggling against her bonds. She looked up when she heard him approach, and Marcus found himself staring into the most beautiful and terrified eyes he'd ever seen. They were deep brown, almost black, and filled with a mixture of hope and fear that hit him like a physical blow. "Please," she whispered, her voice hoarse from crying and screaming. "Please don't hurt me. I don't know who you are or what you want, but I haven't done anything wrong." Marcus raised his hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said softly. "My name is Marcus. I was just hiking, and I heard you crying. What happened to you? Who did this?" The woman studied his face for a long moment, as if trying to decide whether she could trust him. Finally, she spoke. "My name is Amara. I was supposed to get married yesterday." Her voice broke on the last word, and fresh tears began streaming down her cheeks. Marcus knelt down a safe distance away, not wanting to frighten her further. "Yesterday? You've been out here all night. Amara nodded miserably. I thought David loved me. I thought we were going to have the perfect life together. But, right before the ceremony, I found out the truth. What truth? Marcus asked gently. That I was never supposed to be his wife, Amara said, her voice gaining strength as anger mixed with her fear. I was supposed to be his victim. Marcus felt his stomach drop. What do you mean? Amara took a shaky breath. David comes from money, old money. His family has been wealthy for generations. I'm from Detroit, grew up in foster care, worked my way through college and law school. When we met 2 years ago, I thought it was fate. This handsome, successful man who claimed to love me despite our different backgrounds. She paused to wipe tears from her face with the back of her chained hand. But, yesterday morning, I overheard him talking to his brother. They were laughing about their plan. Apparently, David's been doing this for years. He finds women from poor backgrounds, women with no family to ask questions, and he marries them. Then, after a few months, they have accidents. Marcus felt sick. Accidents. Convenient accidents that leave David a wealthy widower who inherits whatever small assets his wives might have, plus any life insurance policies. But, more than that, it's the thrill for him. He gets off on the complete control, the manipulation. My God, Marcus breathed. Did you confront him? Amara shook her head. I was too scared. I pretended I hadn't heard anything, and tried to act normal. But, during the ceremony, when the minister asked if anyone objected, I couldn't go through with it. I spoke up. I told everyone what I'd heard. What happened then? Chaos. David's family was furious. They claimed I was lying, trying to destroy their son's reputation. David played the hurt victim perfectly, saying I'd lost my mind from wedding stress. Most of the guests believed him. I had no proof, just what I'd overheard. Amara's voice grew bitter. But David's brother and a few of their friends knew the truth. After everyone else left, they cornered me. Said I'd caused too much trouble, knew too much. They drugged me somehow, put me in a car, and brought me out here. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. They just left you here to die? David's brother said it would look like I'd had a mental breakdown, wandered into the woods in my wedding dress, and gotten lost. My body would eventually be found, if at all, and it would just be a tragic story of a disturbed young woman. The casual cruelty of it made Marcus feel physically ill. How long have you been here? Since yesterday evening. I've been trying to break these chains, but they're too strong. I screamed until my voice gave out. But nobody comes through this part of the forest. Marcus stood up, pulling out his cell phone. I'm calling the police right now. No signal, Amara said quietly. I've been trying to reach my phone all night, but it's in my purse, which they threw somewhere in the bushes. Even if I could reach it, there's no service out here. Marcus looked at his phone and cursed under his breath. She was right. This deep in the forest, they were completely cut off from the outside world. Okay, he said, his mind racing. First things first, let's get you out of these chains. He examined the shackles and chain more closely. They were heavy-duty, probably meant for securing construction equipment or large animals. The lock was substantial, but not impossible to break with the right tools. I have a toolkit in my car, Marcus said. I'm going to go get some bolt cutters and come right back. Will you be okay for 20 minutes? Fear flashed across Amara's face. You're coming back, right? You're not just going to leave me here. The vulnerability in her voice broke something inside Marcus's chest. I swear to you, I'm coming back. I'm going to get you free, and then we're going to make sure the people who did this pay for what they've done. Amara studied his face again, and Marcus could see her making another decision about trust. Finally, she nodded. Okay, but please hurry. I'm so cold, and I think there might be animals out here. Marcus shrugged off his cashmere sweater and gently placed it around her shoulders. This will help with the cold. And don't worry about animals. The biggest thing in these woods is probably a raccoon. For the first time since he'd found her, Amara almost smiled. Thank you. Marcus jogged back through the forest faster than he'd ever moved in his life. His expensive clothes snagged on branches, and his lungs burned from the exertion, but he didn't slow down. Every second that Amara remained chained to that tree was another second of torture for her. When he reached his Range Rover, Marcus popped the trunk and pulled out a comprehensive toolbox he kept for emergencies. He grabbed bolt cutters, a hacksaw, and several other tools that might be useful. He also retrieved a thermos of coffee and some energy bars from his emergency supplies. The hike back to the clearing felt like it took forever, even though Marcus knew it was probably only 15 minutes. When he emerged from the trees, he was relieved to see Amara exactly where he'd left her, wrapped in his sweater and looking slightly less terrified. "I'm back," he called softly, not wanting to startle her. "Thank God," Amara whispered. "I was starting to think I'd imagined you." Marcus knelt beside her and examined the chains again. "These are going to take some work, but I can cut through them. It might take a while, though." "I'm not going anywhere," Amara said with a weak laugh. As Marcus began working on the first shackle with the bolt cutters, Amara studied his face. "You're not what I expected," she said quietly. "What did you expect?" "I don't know. When I first saw you, I thought you might be one of them, coming back to finish what they started. You look like someone with money." Marcus paused in his work. "Is that bad?" "In my experience, people with money usually only help other people with money. They don't risk getting their hands dirty for someone like me." "Someone like you?" Amara gestured at herself with her free hand. "Poor black girl from the wrong side of Detroit. No family, no connections, no trust fund." Marcus resumed, cutting through the metal. "Money doesn't make someone's life worth more than anyone else's. Tell that to David and his family." "I will, when we get you out of here and go to the police." The first shackle broke free with a loud snap, and Amara gasped in relief as she was able to move her left hand properly for the first time in nearly 24 hours. Marcus immediately began working on the second one. "Can I ask you something?" Amara said as he worked. "Of course. What's your last name?" Marcus hesitated for a moment. His name was well known in business circles, and he wasn't sure how she'd react. "Richardson." Amara was quiet for so long that Marcus looked up from his work. She was staring at him with wide eyes. "Richardson? As in Richardson Technologies. You know my company?" "Everyone in tech knows Richardson Technologies." "You're that Marcus Richardson? The billionaire?" Marcus felt his stomach sink. "Does that change things?" Amara was quiet for another long moment. "I guess it explains the expensive clothes and the fancy car. And why you were hiking alone in the middle of nowhere on a Wednesday morning instead of being at work." "I couldn't sleep," Marcus said honestly. "I come out here when I need to think." "About what?" Marcus resumed, cutting through the second shackle. "About whether having all that money is worth anything if you're completely alone." The second shackle snapped free, and Amara immediately rubbed her wrists, wincing at the pain. Marcus pulled out the thermos of coffee and offered it to her. "Thank you," she said, accepting the warm liquid gratefully. "And thank you for answering my question honestly. Most rich people would have made up some noble reason for being out here." "I'm tired of lying to myself about why I do things," Marcus said. "The truth is, I have everything I thought I wanted, but I feel empty most of the time." Amara sipped the coffee and studied him. "You know what the difference is between you and David?" "What?" "You see me as a human being worth saving. He saw me as an object to be used and discarded." Marcus felt something shift in his chest. "You are worth saving. And not just because you're in trouble. You seem like someone worth knowing." Amara's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they didn't seem to be tears of fear. "I haven't heard words like that in a long time." Marcus helped her to her feet, steadying her when she swayed slightly. "When's the last time you ate?" "Yesterday morning. I was too nervous about the wedding to eat much." Marcus handed her the energy bars. "Eat these. We need to get you somewhere safe and get some real food in you." As Amara ate, Marcus gathered up the chains and shackles. "We're going to need these as evidence." "You really think the police will believe me?" Amara asked. "David's family has money and influence." "I'm nobody." "You're not nobody," Marcus said firmly. "And now you have someone with money and influence on your side." Amara looked at him curiously. "Why are you helping me? Really? You could have called the authorities and walked away. You could have let this be someone else's problem." Marcus considered the question carefully. The honest answer was that he didn't fully understand his own motivations. Something about finding Amara in that clearing had awakened feelings in him that had been dormant for months. But there was more to it than that. "Because," he said finally, "for the first time in years, I have the chance to do something that actually matters. All my money, all my success, it's never helped anyone who really needed help. It's just made me more isolated from the real world." And You think helping me is going to fix your isolation? Marcus shook his head. No. But it might be the first step toward figuring out how to be a decent human being again. Amara finished the energy bar and brushed crumbs from her ruined wedding dress. You know, when I woke up chained to that tree this morning, I thought my life was over. I never imagined I'd be having a philosophical conversation with a billionaire about the meaning of human decency. Life has a way of surprising us, Marcus said. Are you ready to get out of here? Amara nodded. More than ready. As they began the hike back to Marcus's car, Amara stumbled several times. The combination of dehydration, hunger, and trauma was taking its toll. Without asking permission, Marcus put his arm around her waist to steady her. I've got you, he said quietly. I know, Amara replied. And somehow, despite everything she'd been through, she actually believed it. The walk back to the Range Rover took twice as long as Marcus's solo trips, but he didn't mind. They talked as they walked, and Marcus found himself genuinely curious about Amara's life before yesterday's nightmare. She'd grown up in foster care after her parents died in a car accident when she was 8. She'd been shuffled between homes until aging out of the system at 18. Despite the challenges, she'd earned a full scholarship to Michigan State University and then worked her way through law school. I specialized in family law, she explained as they navigated around a fallen log. I wanted to help kids like me, kids who don't have anyone to advocate for them. That's admirable, Marcus said. It doesn't pay much, Amara admitted. But it felt important. At least, it did until yesterday. It still is important, Marcus insisted. What happened to you doesn't change the value of the work you do. When they finally reached the Range Rover, Marcus helped Amara into the passenger seat and cranked up the heat. She immediately sank into the leather seats with a sigh of relief. This is the nicest car I've ever been in, she said. It's just a car, Marcus replied. But he found himself pleased by her reaction. As they drove out of the forest, Marcus's phone finally picked up a signal. It immediately began buzzing with missed calls and messages from his assistant, his lawyer, and various business associates. Popular man, Amara observed. Not really. Just expensive to ignore. At the forest entrance, Marcus pulled over at a small gas station. We need to call the police. But first, are you sure you're ready for this? Once we make the report, your life is going to get complicated. David and his family will probably try to discredit you. Make this whole thing go away. Amara straightened in her seat, and Marcus saw a flash of the strength that had probably gotten her through foster care and law school. They chained me to a tree and left me to die? I'm ready for whatever comes next. Marcus called 911 and reported the crime. Within 30 minutes, police cars and an ambulance had arrived at the gas station. As Amara gave her statement to the officers, Marcus found himself watching her with growing admiration. Despite everything she'd endured, she spoke clearly and calmly, providing every detail she could remember. The detective in charge, a middle-aged woman named Sarah Rodriguez, pulled Marcus aside after taking Amara's initial statement. This is a serious allegation, Detective Rodriguez said. Kidnapping, attempted murder, conspiracy. We're going to need to investigate thoroughly. What do you need from me? Marcus asked. Right now, just your statement about finding her. But, Mr. Richardson, I have to ask, what's your relationship to Ms. Johnson? We just met this morning when I found her in the forest. Detective Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. And you're planning to stay involved in this case? Marcus looked over at Amara, who was sitting in the ambulance while a paramedic treated her injured wrists. She doesn't have anyone else. No family. And I doubt she can trust many friends after what happened. Someone needs to make sure she's protected while you investigate. That's very generous of you. But Ms. Johnson will have access to victim services, a safe house if necessary. I can provide better protection than a safe house, Marcus said quietly. And better legal representation than a public defender. Detective Rodriguez studied him carefully. Mr. Richardson, I hope you understand how this looks. Wealthy man finds attractive woman in distress, swoops in to save the day. Sometimes these situations get complicated. Marcus felt heat rise in his cheeks. Detective, I found a human being chained to a tree and left to die. I don't care how it looks to anyone else. I care about making sure the people who did this are held accountable. Fair enough. But be careful, Mr. Richardson. good intentions can lead to complicated situations. As the ambulance prepared to transport Amara to the hospital for a full medical evaluation, she grabbed Marcus's hand through the open door. "Are you going to disappear now?" she asked. "Now that the professionals are taking over?" Marcus squeezed her hand gently. "I'm not going anywhere. I'll meet you at the hospital as soon as I finish giving my statement. Promise." Marcus arrived at Portland General Hospital 40 minutes after the ambulance, carrying a bag of clothes he'd hastily purchased from an upscale boutique. The wedding dress, while beautiful, was hardly appropriate hospital attire. When he asked at the nurse's station for Amara's room, he was told she was still undergoing evaluation and tests. "Are you family?" the nurse asked. Marcus hesitated. "I'm the one who found her." "I see. Well, the doctors are running some tests to check for dehydration, hypothermia, and other complications from her ordeal. It might be another hour or two." Marcus settled into the uncomfortable waiting room chairs, checking his phone for the first time since morning. 47 missed calls, over 100 emails, and dozens of text messages. His assistant, Jennifer, had been trying to reach him for hours about a crucial board meeting he'd completely forgotten. He was about to call her back when he noticed a news alert on his phone. Local woman claims attempted murder by wealthy fiancé on wedding day. The story was already breaking. Marcus felt his stomach drop as he read the brief article, which mentioned both Amara's allegations and his role in finding her. His phone buzzed immediately with a call from Jennifer. "Marcus, thank God. Where have you been? The board meeting started an hour ago, and there are reporters calling about some woman you allegedly found in the woods." "Cancel my meetings for the rest of the week," Marcus said without preamble. "Cancel your meetings?" "Marcus, you have the Yamamoto merger presentation tomorrow. This deal is worth—" "I said cancel them, Jennifer. All of them." There was silence on the other end. "Are you okay? You're not sounding like yourself." Marcus rubbed his temples. "I'm fine. Something important has come up. Please handle the Yamamoto situation and reschedule everything else." "But, Marcus." "Jennifer, I need you to trust me on this." "Can you do that?" Another pause. "Of course. I'll take care of everything. But, can you at least tell me what's going on?" Marcus looked toward the treatment area where Amara was somewhere behind those doors. "I'll explain everything soon. Right now I need you to do something else for me. I need you to contact Harrison, Blackwell, and Associates, and tell them I need their best criminal defense attorney. Money is no object." "Criminal defense?" "Marcus, are you in trouble?" "Not for me. For someone who needs help." After hanging up with Jennifer, Marcus called his head of security, a former FBI agent named Robert Kane. "Bob, I need a favor. I need you to look into someone named David." Marcus realized he didn't even know David's last name. He'd have to get more details from Amara. While he waited, Marcus found himself thinking about what Detective Rodriguez had said. Was he getting too involved too quickly? He barely knew Amara, yet here he was rearranging his entire life to help her. But every time he considered backing away, he remembered the sight of her chained to that tree, remembered the fear and hope mixed together in her eyes. 2 hours later, a doctor emerged from the treatment area. "Are you here for Amara Johnson?" Marcus stood up quickly. "Yes. How is she?" "She's stable, dehydrated, and malnourished, with some minor cuts and bruises. The injuries on her wrists will heal, though they'll probably leave scars. Psychologically, she's remarkably strong, but I'm recommending she see a trauma counselor." "Can I see her?" The doctor studied Marcus's face. "She's been asking for you. Room 314. Marcus found Amara sitting up in the hospital bed, looking smaller and more vulnerable in the standard hospital gown. Her hair had been cleaned and pulled back, revealing a face that was both beautiful and intelligent. When she saw him, she smiled for the first time since he'd met her. "You came back," she said. "I told you I would." Marcus held up the shopping bag. "I brought you some clothes. I had to guess at sizes." "You bought me clothes? I figured you might not want to wear the wedding dress anymore." Amara's smile faded slightly. "No, I don't think I'll ever want to see that dress again." She gestured to a chair beside her bed. "Sit, please." Marcus sat down, suddenly, feeling awkward. "How are you feeling?" "Better. Tired, but better. The doctors say I'm lucky. Another night in those conditions, and I might have gone into shock." "Don't think about that. You're safe now." Amara studied his face. "Marcus, I need to ask you something. And I need you to be completely honest with me. Okay, why are you doing all this? Really? I mean, you saved my life, which I'll never be able to repay. But buying me clothes, staying at the hospital, that's above and beyond what any reasonable person would do for a stranger. Marcus had been dreading this question because he wasn't sure he understood his own motivations well enough to explain them. Can I ask you something first? Sure. When you were chained to that tree, what were you thinking about? Amara considered the question. At first, I was just terrified. I kept thinking about how I was going to die, and no one would ever know what really happened. But after a while, when I accepted that I might not make it out, I started thinking about my life. What about it? About how I'd spent so much time working toward goals that I thought would make me happy. Law degree, good job, nice apartment, finding love. But when I thought I was going to die, I realized I'd never actually been happy. I'd just been checking boxes, following a script I thought would lead to fulfillment. Marcus nodded slowly. That's exactly why I was in those woods this morning. I've been checking boxes my whole life. Make money, build companies, acquire things. But I woke up this morning in a house worth $20 million, completely alone, wondering what the point of any of it was. And you think helping me is going to give your life meaning? Maybe. Or maybe it's just the first time in years I've had the chance to do something that feels genuinely important. Amara was quiet for a long moment. Marcus, I need you to understand something. I'm not some project you can fix. I'm not going to be grateful enough to fill whatever emotional void you're dealing with. Her directness surprised him, but he respected it. I know that. And I'm not expecting you to be. Then, what are you expecting? Marcus thought carefully before answering. Nothing. I'm not expecting anything from you. I'm offering help because you need it, and because I'm in a position to provide it. What you do with that help is entirely up to you. Amara studied his face intently. And when this is all over, when David and his family are dealt with, what then? Do you just go back to your billion-dollar life and forget about the poor girl you rescued from the woods? I don't know, Marcus admitted. I've never been in this situation before. Well, at least you're honest about it. A knock on the door interrupted their conversation. Detective Rodriguez entered, followed by a man in an expensive suit whom Marcus didn't recognize. Ms. Johnson, this is District Attorney Michael Foster, Detective Rodriguez said. He'd like to speak with you about pressing charges. Foster stepped forward with a politician's smile. Ms. Johnson, I want you to know that my office takes cases like this very seriously. We're prepared to pursue full prosecution of David Morrison and his accomplices. Morrison. Marcus filed the name away. However, Foster continued, I need to be upfront with you about the challenges we face. The Morrison family has significant resources and political connections. They've already retained Brennan and Associates, one of the most powerful law firms in the state. What are you saying? Amara asked. I'm saying we need to build an airtight case. The evidence right now is largely circumstantial. Your testimony about overhearing a conversation, the fact that you were found chained in the woods. It's compelling, but a good defense attorney will poke holes in it. Marcus felt anger building in his chest. Are you telling her not to pursue charges? Foster turned to him with a slightly annoyed expression. And you are? Marcus Richardson. I found Ms. Johnson. Foster's demeanor changed immediately when he heard the name. Mr. Richardson. Of course. I should have recognized you. He glanced between Marcus and Amara with obvious curiosity. Ms. Johnson, you should know that having Mr. Richardson's support will certainly help your case. The Morrison family may have influence, but Mr. Richardson's resources are considerably greater. I didn't ask for his resources, Amara said firmly. I asked what evidence you need to build a case. Foster looked slightly taken aback by her tone. Well, we need corroborating evidence. Witnesses to the conversation you overheard, evidence of the Morrison family's previous alleged crimes, documentation of the conspiracy. What about the chains and shackles? Marcus asked. They'll help establish that she was held against her will, but not who put her there. We need to connect David Morrison and his associates to the actual crime. Detective Rodriguez spoke up. We're working on that. We've interviewed some of the wedding guests, and a few remembered Ms. Johnson's outburst during the ceremony. We're also looking into the Morrison family's background. How long will that take? Amara asked. Could be weeks or months, Foster admitted. And, in the meantime, you need to be careful. The Morrisons are going to do everything they can to discredit you. As if on cue, Marcus's phone buzzed with a news alert. He glanced at it and felt his jaw clench. What is it? Amara asked, noticing his expression. Marcus showed her the phone. The headline read, Runaway Bride's Breakdown. Family claims missing woman suffered mental health crisis. Amara read the article quickly, her face growing pale. They're saying I had a psychotic break, that I attacked David at the altar and then disappeared into the woods in my wedding dress. There's more, Marcus said grimly, scrolling through his phone. David is giving interviews. He's claiming he's devastated about your disappearance and that he just wants you to get the help you need. Foster sighed. This is exactly what I was worried about. They're controlling the narrative. So what do we do? Amara asked. We fight back, Marcus said firmly. We tell the truth, and we make sure people hear it. Mr. Richardson, Foster said cautiously. With respect, this isn't a business deal you can negotiate your way through. The Morrison family is playing a different game entirely. Then, maybe it's time they learned how I play my games, Marcus replied. After Foster and Detective Rodriguez left, Marcus and Amara sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, Amara spoke. You know they're going to come after you too, right? For helping me? They'll try to make you look like some rich guy with a savior complex who got taken in by a manipulative woman. Let them try. Marcus, I'm serious. You have a reputation, a business empire. Getting involved in this could damage all of that. Marcus stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city below. You want to know something? This morning, before I found you, I was thinking about selling everything. Just liquidating the whole empire and disappearing somewhere. Why? Because none of it meant anything to me anymore. I built Richardson Technologies from nothing, turned it into a global powerhouse, made more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. And for what? So I could sit alone in my mansion feeling empty. He turned back to face her. Finding you today, helping you. It's the first time in years I've felt like my resources could actually make a positive difference in someone's life. But what if we lose? What if the Morrisons destroy both of us? Marcus smiled grimly. Then, at least we'll go down fighting for something that matters. Amara was quiet for a long moment. You know, when I was growing up in foster care, I used to have this fantasy about being rescued. Some rich, kind family would adopt me and give me the perfect life. But it never happened. No. And eventually, I learned that no one was coming to rescue me. I had to rescue myself. You did rescue yourself, Marcus pointed out. You put yourself through college and law school, built a career helping other people. That's remarkable. And then I met David and forgot everything I'd learned about taking care of myself. David was a predator. He was skilled at manipulation. That's not a reflection of weakness on your part. Amara looked at him with something that might have been gratitude. You really believe that? I know that. Another knock on the door interrupted them. A nurse entered, carrying a meal tray. Time for dinner, she said cheerfully. Hospital food isn't exactly gourmet, but it's better than nothing. As the nurse left, Marcus stood up. I should let you rest. It's been a long day. Wait, Amara said. Would you stay? Just until I fall asleep? I know it sounds silly, but I'm not ready to be alone yet. Marcus settled back into the chair. Of course. As Amara ate her dinner, they talked about safer topics. Marcus told her about his early days building his company, working 18-hour days in a garage with 2 computer science friends from college. Amara shared stories about some of her more memorable foster families, including one that had 12 kids and operated like a small military unit. You know what's strange? Amara said as she finished her meal. This is the most normal conversation I've had in months. David was always performing, always trying to impress me or control the narrative. We never just talked. What did you talk about? His plans for our future. Where we'd live, how many kids we'd have, what social events we'd attend. But it was never really a conversation. It was him telling me how things were going to be. And you went along with it? Amara sighed. I thought it meant he loved me enough to plan our whole life together. I was so starved for someone to want me that I mistook control for devotion. Marcus felt a stab of recognition. Sarah, my ex-wife, used to say that I confused providing for her with actually caring about her. What did she mean? I thought if I bought her beautiful things, took her to expensive places, gave her access to my world, that was the same as love. But I never actually listened to what she wanted or needed. What did she want? Time. Attention. A husband who was present instead of always thinking about the next deal or the next acquisition. Do you miss her? Marcus considered the question. I miss the idea of her. I miss not being alone. But I'm not sure I ever really knew her well enough to miss her specifically. That's sad. Yeah, it is. As the evening wore on, Amara's eyelids began to droop. The stress and trauma of the past day, combined with the pain medication the doctors had given her, were finally taking their toll. Marcus, she said sleepily. Yeah. Thank you. Not just for saving me, but for treating me like I'm worth saving. You are worth saving, Amara. Don't ever doubt that. She was asleep within minutes, her breathing deep and even. Marcus sat quietly in the darkened room, watching her sleep and thinking about the strange turn his life had taken. 24 hours ago, his biggest worry had been whether to attend a board meeting. Now he was planning a war against one of Portland's most powerful families. His phone buzzed softly with a text message from his security chief, found background on Morrison family. We need to talk. This is bigger than you think. Marcus stepped into the hallway to take the call. What did you find, Bob? The Morrison family has been connected to at least 3 suspicious deaths over the past 15 years. All young women who married into the family or were engaged to family members. Marcus felt ice in his veins. Tell me. 2009, David's cousin married a teacher from Ohio. She died in a skiing accident 6 months later. 2013, David's brother was engaged to a nurse from Seattle. She died in a car accident 3 weeks before the wedding. 2018, David himself was married briefly to a social worker from California. She died from a fall down the stairs in their home. Jesus Christ. All the deaths were ruled accidental. All the women were from modest backgrounds with no significant family connections. And all of them had life insurance policies that benefited the Morrison family. How is this family still walking free? Money, influence, and very careful planning. Each incident was investigated separately by different jurisdictions. No one connected the pattern. Marcus closed his eyes. Until now. Boss, this isn't just about helping one woman anymore. If Amara's story is true, and if the pattern holds, we're looking at a family of serial killers who've been operating for over a decade. What do we need to do? First, we need to make sure Amara is protected. If the Morrison family realizes she survived and is talking to authorities, she's in extreme danger. I'll handle her security personally. Second, we need to find evidence connecting all these cases. Police reports, insurance claims, witness statements. It's going to take time and resources. You have unlimited budget for this, Bob. Whatever it takes. There's something else, boss. David Morrison filed a missing person report on Amara this afternoon. He's claiming she's mentally unstable and potentially dangerous to herself or others. There's a possibility they might try to have her committed involuntarily. Marcus felt rage building in his chest. Can they do that? If they can produce enough evidence of mental instability, yes. And given their resources and connections, they might be able to make a compelling case. Not on my watch, Marcus said grimly. The next morning brought chaos that Marcus hadn't anticipated. He arrived at the hospital at 7 a.m. to find news vans parked outside and reporters trying to get statements from anyone willing to talk. The story had exploded overnight, with national news networks picking up the local coverage. Marcus used a side entrance to avoid the media circus and made his way to Amara's room. He found her sitting up in bed, staring at the television with a look of horror on her face. "Turn it off," she said when she saw him. Marcus grabbed the remote and clicked off the TV, but not before he caught a glimpse of David Morrison standing outside his family's estate, surrounded by reporters and looking every inch the grieving, concerned fiancé. "He's really good at this," Amara said bitterly. "Did you see his performance? He's got everyone believing I'm the victim of my own mental breakdown. I saw some of it on my way in. How are you holding up?" "I've been better. The nurses say reporters have been calling all night trying to get information about my condition." Marcus pulled up the chair beside her bed. "Amara, we need to talk about security. My team has uncovered some information about the Morrison family that changes everything." Over the next 20 minutes, Marcus told her everything Bob Kane had discovered about the suspicious deaths connected to the Morrison family. With each detail, Amara's face grew paler. "3 other women," she whispered when he finished. They killed 3 other women. We think so, but proving it is going to take time. Time I might not have. Amara pointed toward the window, where they could hear the distant sound of reporters shouting questions. David's already controlling the narrative. How long before people start believing I really am mentally unstable? That's not going to happen. How can you be so sure? Marcus pulled out his phone and showed her a press release that his PR team had prepared. Because we're going to tell our side of the story. Amara read the statement, which detailed her allegations against David Morrison and included several key facts about the suspicious deaths of other women connected to the Morrison family. You're really going to release this? We already have. It went out to every major news outlet 20 minutes ago. Marcus, this is war. You understand that, right? The Morrison family isn't going to just roll over because you have more money than they do. I'm counting on it. Before Amara could respond, there was a commotion in the hallway outside her room. Raised voices, rapid footsteps, and what sounded like a heated argument. Marcus stepped to the door and peered out. 3 people in business suits were arguing with hospital security and a floor nurse. He recognized David Morrison immediately, even though he'd only seen him on television. Tall, handsome in a conventional way, with perfectly styled blonde hair and the kind of confident bearing that came from a lifetime of privilege. With David were 2 other people, a severe-looking woman in her 50s wearing an expensive black dress, and a younger man who shared David's features and could only be his brother. I have every right to see my fiancée, David was saying in a voice that carried the authority of someone accustomed to getting his way. She's clearly suffering from a severe mental health crisis, and I'm concerned for her well-being. Sir, the patient has specifically requested no visitors except for those on her approved list, the nurse replied firmly. She's not thinking clearly. The older woman interjected. I'm Eleanor Morrison, David's mother. Amara is like a daughter to me. This whole situation is obviously the result of wedding stress and some kind of breakdown. Marcus felt Amara appear beside him at the door. She was shaking slightly, but her voice was steady when she spoke. I'm thinking very clearly, Mrs. Morrison, and the only breakdown I had was finally seeing your son for what he really is. The hallway went silent. David's carefully composed expression slipped for just a moment, revealing something cold and calculating underneath. Amara, sweetheart, David said, his voice dripping with false concern. You're sick. You need help. All this nonsense about murder plots. It's clearly a delusion brought on by stress. The only delusion was thinking you ever loved me, Amara replied. Eleanor Morrison stepped forward. Young lady, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but you are destroying my son's reputation with these wild accusations. Good, Amara said simply. David's younger brother, who had been silent until now, spoke up. Maybe we should discuss this privately, away from the media circus downstairs. Marcus stepped into the hallway beside Amara. That's not going to happen. David's eyes narrowed when he saw Marcus. And you are? Marcus Richardson. I'm the one who found Amara chained to a tree in the forest. Ah, yes. The billionaire with a hero complex. Eleanor Morrison said dismissively. I'm sure you mean well, Mr. Richardson. But you're being manipulated by a very troubled young woman. The only troubled people I see are the ones standing in this hallway, Marcus replied calmly. David stepped closer, and Marcus could see the rage barely controlled behind his perfect facade. You have no idea what you're interfering with, Richardson. This is a private family matter. Attempted murder stopped being a private family matter the moment it became a crime. Alleged attempted murder, the younger Morrison brother corrected. And the allegations are coming from someone who clearly isn't mentally stable. Marcus felt Amara tense beside him. He could see the Morrison family strategy playing out in real time. Discredit Amara, paint her as mentally unstable, and make Marcus look like a gullible fool being manipulated by a delusional woman. You know what I think? Marcus said conversationally. I think you're scared. I think you've been getting away with murder for years, and now you're panicking because someone finally survived to tell the story. The temperature in the hallway seemed to drop several degrees. Eleanor Morrison's face went white, and David's carefully controlled mask slipped completely. You have no proof of anything, David said quietly, but there was menace in his voice now. Not yet, Marcus agreed. But I will. Hospital security had been watching the confrontation escalate, and now they stepped forward. I'm going to need everyone who isn't staff or approved visitors to leave the floor immediately, the head security guard announced. David looked like he wanted to argue, but Eleanor Morrison placed a hand on his arm. Come along, David. We have lawyers to call. As the Morrison family walked away, David turned back one last time. This isn't over, Amara. You can't hide behind your billionaire boyfriend forever. I'm not hiding, Amara called after him. I'm planning. After the Morrisons left, Marcus and Amara returned to her room. Amara collapsed into the chair, her hands shaking. That was terrifying, she admitted, but also kind of liberating. How so? For months, I was afraid of disappointing David, afraid of not living up to his expectations. Seeing him like that, seeing the mask slip, I realized how afraid I was of someone who should never have had power over me. Marcus sat on the edge of the hospital bed. You were incredible out there. I was terrified. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's being afraid and doing what's right anyway. Amara smiled weakly. Is that from a fortune cookie? Business school, actually. Leadership class. They taught you about courage in business school. They taught us about making difficult decisions under pressure. Same principle. A knock on the door interrupted them. Detective Rodriguez entered, followed by a woman Marcus didn't recognize. Ms. Johnson, this is Agent Sarah Mitchell from the FBI, Detective Rodriguez said. Based on the information that's come to light about the Morrison family, this case has been escalated to federal jurisdiction. Agent Mitchell stepped forward. She was tall, serious-looking, with prematurely gray hair and intelligent eyes. Ms. Johnson, Mr. Richardson, I need to speak with both of you about what you know regarding the Morrison family's activities. Over the next hour, Agent Mitchell took detailed statements from both Marcus and Amara. She was particularly interested in the pattern of suspicious deaths that Marcus's security team had uncovered. We've been looking into the Morrison family for 2 years, Agent Mitchell revealed after they'd finished giving their statements. But we've never had a surviving witness before. 2 years, Amara asked. Why didn't you arrest them? Because we couldn't prove anything. Each death appeared accidental when viewed individually. It's only when you look at the pattern that it becomes suspicious. And now? Marcus asked. Now we have a witness who survived an attempt on her life and can testify to overhearing them discuss their previous murders. That changes everything. Agent Mitchell turned to Amara. I'm not going to lie to you, Ms. Johnson. Testifying against the Morrison family is going to be dangerous. They have resources, connections, and a demonstrated willingness to kill to protect themselves. What are you suggesting? Witness protection, a new identity, relocation, federal marshals to keep you safe until the trial. Amara was quiet for a long moment. What about my life? My career? Everything I've built. You'd have to give it up. At least temporarily, possibly permanently. Marcus felt something twist in his stomach. The idea of Amara disappearing into witness protection, of never seeing her again, was surprisingly difficult to accept. Is there another option? He asked. Agent Mitchell looked at him carefully. Mr. Richardson, you have significant resources at your disposal. Private security, safe houses, the ability to protect Ms. Johnson without requiring her to give up her identity. But it would be risky. How risky? The Morrison family has proven they're willing to kill to protect their secrets. If you take responsibility for Ms. Johnson's safety, you become a target too. Marcus looked at Amara, who was studying his face intently. What do you want to do? He asked her. I want to finish what I started, Amara said firmly. I want to see them pay for what they've done to me and to those other women. And I want to do it as myself, not hiding behind some fake identity. Agent Mitchell nodded approvingly. Then, we'll work together. But, Ms. Johnson, you can't stay here. The hospital is too public, too vulnerable. You need somewhere secure while we build our case. She can stay with me, Marcus said immediately. Both women turned to look at him. Agent Mitchell raised an eyebrow. Mr. Richardson, that might not be the best idea. Your home address is public record. The Morrison family will know exactly where to find her. Not my main residence, Marcus said. I have a safe house. You have a safe house? Amara asked. I'm a billionaire, Amara. I have lots of things most people don't need. Agent Mitchell looked intrigued. What kind of security are we talking about? Marcus pulled out his phone and made a call. Bob, I need you to prepare the Portland facility for an extended stay. full security protocols, and I want a team on site around the clock. He hung up and turned back to Agent Mitchell. 24-hour armed security, bulletproof windows, safe room, independent power, and communication systems. The whole property is surrounded by motion sensors and cameras. Impressive. But, Mr. Richardson, you understand what you're signing up for? The Morrison family won't just target Ms. Johnson. They'll come after you too. Let them try. Amara grabbed his hand. Marcus, you don't have to do this. You've already done more than enough. I'm not doing this just for you anymore, Marcus said honestly. I'm doing it because it's right. Those people have been murdering innocent women for years, and no one has been able to stop them. And you think you can? I think we can. Agent Mitchell stood up. All right then. Ms. Johnson, you'll be discharged this afternoon. Mr. Richardson, I'll need to inspect your safe house and coordinate with your security team. We'll also need to establish communication protocols and safety procedures. After Agent Mitchell left, Marcus and Amara sat in silence for several minutes. Are you sure about this? Amara finally asked. Are you? I'm terrified, she admitted. But I'm also angry. Those women David's family killed, they didn't have anyone to fight for them. They died alone and afraid, and no one even questioned it. They won't get away with it this time. Amara squeezed his hand. Promise me something. What? Promise me that if this gets too dangerous, if it looks like they might hurt you, you'll walk away. Marcus looked into her eyes. I can't promise that, Amara. Why not? Because walking away would mean letting them win. And I've never walked away from a fight in my life. 3 hours later, they were driving through the hills outside Portland in an armored SUV, flanked by 2 security vehicles. Marcus watched Amara take in the scenery, noting how she seemed to relax as they moved further away from the city. Tell me about this safe house, she said. I bought it 5 years ago after receiving some credible death threats from a competitor I'd forced out of business. It was supposed to be a temporary precaution, but you kept it. Paranoia is a useful trait in my line of work. The safe house turned out to be a modern architectural masterpiece built into the side of a mountain, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered panoramic views of the forest below. Despite its remote location, it was clearly a luxury residence, with high-end furnishings and every conceivable amenity. This is your idea of a safe house? Amara asked as they toured the main living area. I believe in being comfortable while staying alive. Bob Kane met them at the entrance, along with a team of 6 security specialists. Marcus introduced Amara to the team and reviewed the security protocols they'd established. The perimeter is monitored 24/7, Bob explained. Motion sensors, thermal imaging, and regular patrols. The house itself has a safe room with independent communications and supplies for 72 hours. Hopefully we won't need it, Marcus said. Hope for the best, plan for the worst, Bob replied. As evening approached, Marcus found Amara standing on the deck, looking out at the forest. She'd changed into some of the clothes he'd bought her, jeans and a sweater that made her look younger and more vulnerable than she had in the hospital. It's beautiful here, she said when he joined her. It's peaceful. I forgot how much I missed that. Marcus, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Okay, do you think we can really beat them? I mean, really? Or are we just postponing the inevitable? Marcus considered the question carefully. Honestly, I don't know. They have advantages we don't have. Political connections, law enforcement contacts, years of experience covering their tracks. But they've never faced anyone with resources like mine. And they've never had a witness like you. A witness like me? Someone who's smart, strong, and absolutely determined to see justice done. Amara leaned against the deck railing. You know, this morning I woke up in a hospital bed thinking my life was over. Now I'm standing in a billionaire's safe house planning to take down a family of serial killers. Life is strange. Strange doesn't begin to cover it. Marcus. The attack came at 3 in the morning, exactly 1 week after Amara had moved into the safe house. Marcus was awakened by the subtle vibration of his security alert system, followed immediately by Bob Kane's voice over the intercom. Boss, we've got movement on the perimeter. Multiple contacts approaching from the East Ridge. Marcus was out of bed instantly, pulling on clothes and moving toward Amara's room. He found her already awake, sitting up in bed with alert eyes. You heard it too? He asked. I've been having trouble sleeping, she admitted. Too quiet after everything that's happened. Marcus helped her into a robe and guided her toward the safe room. This is probably nothing, but we're not taking chances. The safe room was a marvel of engineering, built into the mountain itself and accessible through a hidden panel in Marcus's study. Inside, banks of monitors showed feeds from cameras positioned throughout the property. Bob Kane was already there, coordinating with the security team via radio. We've got 8, possibly 10 individuals in tactical gear approaching the house. They've disabled 3 of our perimeter sensors. Professional? Marcus asked. Very. Military precision, proper equipment. This isn't some random break-in. Marcus felt cold dread in his stomach. The Morrison family works fast. Sir, one of the security monitors spoke up. We're getting radio chatter on police frequencies. Multiple units responding to reports of an armed assault in progress at this address. But we didn't call the police, Amara said. Neither did we, Bob confirmed grimly. Someone wants law enforcement here when whatever's about to happen goes down. Marcus understood immediately. They're going to make it look like we're the aggressors. Armed billionaire holds innocent woman hostage, shoots it out with police. That's my read, Bob agreed. We need to be very careful how we handle this. On the monitors, they could see figures in tactical gear surrounding the house. They moved with professional precision, covering each other's movements and avoiding the remaining camera positions. Bob, patch me through to Agent Mitchell, Marcus ordered. While Bob made the call, Marcus turned to Amara. Are you okay? I'm scared, she admitted. But I'm also angry. They're really going to try to kill us both. Not if I can help it. Agent Mitchell's voice crackled through the secure communication system. Mr. Richardson, we're monitoring police chatter. Local law enforcement is responding to reports of shots fired and hostages taken at your location. There have been no shots fired, Marcus said firmly. We're under assault by unknown individuals, and someone has called in false reports to bring police here. I'm mobilizing a federal response team, but they're 20 minutes out. Can you hold until then? We'll try. The first explosion shattered windows on the main floor, followed immediately by the acrid smell of smoke. On the monitors, they could see armed figures moving through the house. Tear gas, Bob reported. They're trying to flush us out. Options? Marcus asked. We can hold this position indefinitely, but if the police believe we're the aggressors, they might try to breach the safe room. And if we come out, the tactical team outside will eliminate us and claim we were shooting at police. Marcus looked at the monitors showing police cars arriving at the property perimeter. Perfect setup. We're trapped between 2 forces, and one of them doesn't know they're being used. Amara was studying the monitor feeds intently. Marcus, look at this camera angle. The tactical team, they're not just surrounding the house. They're positioning themselves where the police can't see them. She was right. The assault team had positioned themselves in blind spots that would be invisible to law enforcement approaching from the main road. They're going to let the police think they're doing the storming, Marcus realized. Then, when the shooting starts, it will look like the police killed us. Bob was coordinating with his team via radio. Sir, my people are in defensive positions throughout the house, but they've been ordered not to engage unless directly fired upon. We can't afford to give the police any reason to think we're the aggressors. What about the assault team? They're being more cautious now that law enforcement is on scene. They can't just blast their way in anymore. Agent Mitchell's voice came through the communications again. Mr. Richardson, I've contacted local police command. They're saying they have reports of you holding Ms. Johnson against her will and threatening to kill her. That's completely false. I know that, but they don't. The reports are very detailed and apparently coming from credible sources. Marcus closed his eyes. The Morrison family had thought this through completely. Agent Mitchell, can you patch me through to the police commander on scene? I can try. A few minutes later, a gruff voice came through the system. This is Commander Walsh, Portland Police. Who am I speaking to? Commander Walsh, this is Marcus Richardson. I'm told you've received reports that I'm holding someone hostage. That's correct, Mr. Richardson. We have reports that you're holding a young woman named Amara Johnson against her will in some kind of underground bunker. Marcus gestured for Amara to speak. Commander Walsh, this is Amara Johnson. I'm here voluntarily, and I'm not being held hostage. Mr. Richardson is protecting me from people who tried to murder me. There was a long pause. Ms. Johnson, are you under duress? Are you being forced to say this? No, sir. Commander, there are armed individuals on this property right now who are not police officers. They're the same people who chained me to a tree in the forest a week ago. Ma'am, we've had reports that you've been suffering from mental health issues related to a recent traumatic event. Marcus felt rage building. The Morrison family's narrative was holding even in the face of direct contradiction. Commander, Marcus said, I'm going to ask Agent Sarah Mitchell of the FBI to verify everything we're telling you. This is a federal investigation into a series of murders committed by the Morrison family. Mr. Richardson, I don't know anything about federal investigations. What I know is that I have multiple reports of shots fired and hostages taken at your location. On the monitors, Marcus could see the tactical team repositioning. They were clearly waiting for something. Bob, Marcus said quietly. They're waiting for the police to breach the house. When that happens, the shooting will start, and we'll be caught in the crossfire. Agreed. Sir, I recommend we evacuate to the secondary exit while we still can. Marcus had built the safe house with multiple escape routes, including a tunnel that led to a camouflaged exit point half a mile away in the forest. It was designed for exactly this kind of situation. Agent Mitchell, we're going to evacuate the premises using a secure route. Can you coordinate with local law enforcement to ensure we're not shot when we emerge? I'm trying, Mr. Richardson, but the situation is complicated. Local police think you're the threat. Then, we'll have to take our chances. Marcus turned to Amara. We're going to move through an underground tunnel to an exit point in the forest. From there, we'll try to reach law enforcement safely. And if we can't, then we keep moving until we find someone who will listen to the truth. The tunnel was narrow and dark, lit only by emergency lighting. Marcus led the way, followed by Amara and two of Bob's security team. Behind them, they could hear the sounds of the police breach beginning. They're using flashbang grenades, Bob reported via radio. Moving through the main floor now. Any sign of the tactical team? They're holding position, waiting for something. The tunnel extended deep into the mountain before angling upward toward the forest exit. It took them nearly 20 minutes to reach the end, emerging through a camouflaged hatch beneath a stand of pine trees. The night air was cold and clear, filled with the distant sounds of shouting and radio chatter from the direction of the safe house. Marcus oriented himself using the stars and pointed toward a ridge line to the north. There's a fire road about 2 miles that way. If we can reach it, we can call for extraction. They moved quietly through the forest, avoiding trails and staying in the deepest shadows. Behind them, the sounds of the police operation continued, punctuated occasionally by what sounded like gunfire. They're shooting at each other now, Amara whispered. The tactical team and the police? It's what the Morrison family planned. Chaos, confusion, and 2 dead bodies at the end. After an hour of difficult hiking, they reached the fire road. Marcus called Agent Mitchell on a secure satellite phone. Agent Mitchell, we're clear of the immediate area. What's the situation at the safe house? Confused. Local police found evidence of an armed assault, but no hostiles and no hostages. They're saying you and MS Johnson escaped, possibly with help from accomplices. Accomplices? The narrative is that you're some kind of domestic terrorist who's been radicalized by anti-government extremists. Marcus felt the web of lies tightening around them. Agent Mitchell, where can we meet safely? I'm not sure anywhere is safe right now. The Morrison family has more reach than we anticipated. What do you mean? I mean someone high up in local law enforcement is feeding them information. The assault tonight was too well coordinated, too perfectly timed. Marcus looked at Amara, who was sitting on a fallen log looking exhausted and defeated. So what do we do now? We go to ground. Completely off the radar until I can figure out how deep this conspiracy goes. For how long? As long as it takes. After ending the call, Marcus sat down beside Amara on the log. Around them, the forest was quiet except for the normal sounds of night creatures. We're fugitives now, Amara said quietly. Temporarily. Marcus, maybe you should walk away. This has gone way beyond what anyone could have expected. Walk away to what? My empty mansion? My meaningless board meetings? Your life? Your safety? Your billions of dollars that don't mean anything to you anymore? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. You know what I realized tonight? What? That money really doesn't mean anything if you're not using it to protect the people you care about. Amara looked at him in the moonlight. Is that what this is about? You care about me? Yes, Marcus said simply. More than I probably should, given how recently we met. That's not very rational for a billionaire businessman. Nothing about this situation has been rational. Amara leaned against his shoulder. So what now? We become wilderness survivalists while Agent Mitchell fights the Morrison family's conspiracy from within the FBI. We stay alive long enough to find evidence that will destroy them completely. And how do we do that? Marcus smiled grimly. We stop playing defense and start playing offense. What do you mean? I mean the Morrison family thinks they've won. They think we're on the run, neutralized, no longer a threat. That's when people get careless. You want to go after them directly? I want to hit them where they're most vulnerable. Which is where? Marcus pulled out his satellite phone again. Bob, are you clear of the safe house? Yes, sir. The whole team is secure. Good. I need you to do something for me. I need complete financial profiles on every member of the Morrison family. Assets, investments, business interests, debts, everything. Planning something, boss? I'm planning to remind them why it's a bad idea to go to war with someone who has more resources than they do. Amara was watching him with interest. You're going to attack their money? I'm going to destroy their money. Their political connections are based on their wealth and status. Take away their financial foundation, and their whole power structure collapses. Is that legal? Completely legal. I'm just going to outcompete them in every market they're involved in until they have nothing left. That could take years. It could, but it won't, because desperate people make mistakes. And when they make mistakes, we'll be ready to capitalize on them. Marcus stood up and offered Amara his hand. Come on. We have work to do. Where are we going? To disappear completely while I dismantle everything the Morrison family has built. Yeah. Thank you. For everything. But especially for treating me like an equal partner in this instead of just someone to be protected. You are an equal partner. This is as much your fight as it is mine now. As they stood there watching the sun set over the forest, Marcus realized that for the first time in months, he felt genuinely alive. The emptiness that had plagued him was gone, replaced by purpose and determination. Whether they won or lost, he was finally fighting for something that mattered. What he didn't know was that 15 miles away, the Morrison family was planning their next move. And they had no intention of playing by the rules Marcus thought governed the game they were about to play. Boss, I have to ask, how far are you willing to go with this? Marcus looked back through the window at Amara, sleeping peacefully for the first time in days. All the way, Bob. Whatever it takes. As Marcus hung up the phone, he realized there was no going back now. He wasn't just helping a woman in distress anymore. He was going to war with killers who had operated with impunity for years. And he was going to win, no matter what it cost him. I promise. As the ambulance pulled away, Marcus realized that for the first time in months, he had somewhere important to be. Someone was counting on him, not because of his money or his business connections, but because of who he chose to be in a moment that mattered. Detective Rodriguez's warning echoed in his mind, but Marcus pushed the doubt away. Complicated or not, he'd made a promise to Amara, and he intended to keep it. What he didn't know yet was that keeping that promise would change both their lives in ways neither of them could imagine.